Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna. Welcome to number 100. Thank you all so much for sticking with Cellar Door Skeptics. Sticking.
They use Sean Connery.
I am not Sean Connery, but we are. Thank you all for sticking with us through 2 amazing years. And yes, it's been 2 years since we have started a podcast. It's not been 2 years technically since we've been doing podcasting, but it has been 2 years since we have started a podcast. And for me, the most exciting thing tonight is the fact that we get to pick the charity and we get to donate to the charity this year, so that in an effort to help create a more humanitarian society, you all get to vicariously contribute through us.
And just to man up on our freaking, we said we were going to do it, and then we never did it. So like the last year we did it, but it wasn't really like announced because we participated in a kind of a charitable drive, and then we just kind of went with them. This year, like, we're making a full on announcement. We're doing, a real charity that we've got some information about and let everybody know. It just seems more formal. Seems a little bit more. A little bit more
formal. And I'm gonna call you out a little bit on your man up term, because I think that's kind of ridiculous. We're not manning up. We're just fulfilling promises that we make, because in all fairness, that's what we're about, right? And if we couldn't make those promises or we couldn't fulfill them, then we would own up to it. But this year we get to, and that's what exciting is. We've had some contributors through our Patreon accounts, and we've had a lot of people be able to come and join us, and I'm very thrilled that we're actually able to make an impact outside of just what we do in our personal lives.
Definitely. I mean, straight up, I'm excited. I've been waiting for this. So we talked about it on which one we were going to do, and we were trying to figure it out. And so we found an awesome one, and credit's got to go to you, because we kind of talked about what we wanted to do, and you found it, so that goes 100% for you. But I mean, I'm definitely thankful for everybody who gave us a couple of bucks of their time and everything, because we said we were going to try to make a little local difference, and so this is our best attempt so far with Cellar Door Skeptics to make a difference in our local community and the local the world around here, that we wanted to get involved with politics and everything. So this is exciting, man. I'm really excited to finally get some feet out there, our fingers in the dirt, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And the best part about this is that you can become part of the revolution. You can become part of the change. You can join the ranks of Patreon supporters if you head over to patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics. And for as little as $1 a month, you can actually, or $1 an episode, you can join the team and help donate. And again, like we said, typically we donate more than what we bring in. We say we're only going to donate 10%, but this year we're going to hit, I think, 45 or 50% of whatever the donations that have come in. We're going to hit that even before we pay out for the Spreaker accounts or for the website. So, and we're not saying this to brag. This is not a bragging thing. This is just us saying, hey, we're putting our money where our mouth is. Sometimes, there's people like me and there's people like Hannah, and we want to be activists. We want to do things in the community. We want to try and bring society together. And sometimes we don't know how else to do that other than money. Hannah works 80 hours a week. I'm working 65 hours a week and have 4 kids. And so sometimes it's just easier for us to, donate cash to that cause. And so the whole platform for Cellar Door Skeptics, right, is that we're going to be skeptics first and we're going to be humanists second. And the whole goal is to be able to ensure that our society that we live in, and even in Grand Rapids, continues to thrive as best as we can make that happen.
Well, I mean, just the local politics, too, is the grassroots thing, growing it from the bottom up. We want everything to grow from the bottom up. We're tired of this top-down politics. So maybe the little things that we do here, and everybody who's our Patreon, will be just a little help in changing the face of American politics and Michigan politics, and Grand Rapids politics, and we keep shrinking it down. So I'm super excited about helping out, and I just really want this to have a nice, warm, fuzzy face on it because I am so tired of negative politics. So this is going to be fun politicking, if that's a good way to call it. So I don't know, it's gonna be a fun episode, and this is our 100th episode. I've been thinking about how much fun this is gonna be and like what we're gonna talk about and everything, because we're kind of gonna do a navel gazing. We're gonna talk a little bit about ourselves, and then we're gonna kind of grow it out from there and talk about changes and things to our future.
Yeah. And again, if anybody ever has suggestions, you're welcome to email us at cellardoorskeptics@gmail.com. Vent what you would like to vent, or tell us what direction you'd like us to go. Because we're going to make a few changes to the podcast. Nothing major. Don't worry, we're not revamping the whole thing, and we're going to become some shock jock thing or something like that. We've got a few plans of different things we want to try out over the next year, and we want you all to be involved with it. So we think it's a good changes, and we think the charity we are investing in is a good charity. We're also going to be talking about, like you said, the reflections, because we talked about this, right? And we said, hey, we could do a podcast tonight where we slam Trump again. We could talk about the Las Vegas shooting, and trust us, that will come up, because as everybody who listens to this show knows my opinion on gun control.
Yep.
And for me, this is a really hard one to just let go. But I don't want to do this big ranty thing. I don't want to repeat what I've said. It's kind of funny, and I guess I'll tell a little story here. I was going back listening to some of the episodes this week and kind of going through the different ones that I enjoyed that we've done over the last 2 years. And I'm listening through some of these and kind of skipping parts. I'm like, we sounded like crap here, or I don't really like that segment as much. Why the heck did we ever cover that? And then, I came across a couple episodes. Then the shooting happened, and I went back to the list that I'd written down. And ironically enough, one of the episodes I didn't choose was a debate we had on gun control with a gentleman named Stu. And so I went back and actually listened to that episode today. And it's a long episode. It's a 2.5 hour discussion, but we highlight a lot of the points where I feel gun control is the most logical step, where it succeeded before, all these other things. And then, we kind of looked at it from his side, where he's, not anti-gun control, but pro-limited gun control. And it actually is a pivot point in, some of my belief sets, and not just with gun control, right? But it's a pivot point in my libertarian belief sets, because as we want to start the episode out by talking about things that we've changed our mind on, I was not a staunch libertarian, right? But I was very, very looking forward to my socialistic libertarian viewpoints. And I side with the libertarian in a lot of different methods, such as drugs. I think drugs should not be illegal. I don't think we should. I think we should regulate them, and I think we should do a whole bunch of different things with them and tax them. But I don't think that we should say heroin should be outlawed, right? That's a very libertarian viewpoint, outside of the fact that I want to tax it. That's not a libertarian viewpoint. But it's kind of funny because
I love that. Everything's okay, but we're going to tax them.
Exactly. Well, and as we go through a lot of these different things, and we kind of talk about how we've changed, that's one of the big things for me that actually changed this year, was libertarianism. I didn't embrace it to the extent where I claim to be a libertarian. But I did embrace it on the side of my political scale because, in all fairness, I felt that less rules for the majority of the time would be better, as long as we could control the higher level aspects, such as the income, the money, the taxation above, and let everything else kind of fall into place. But if you go back and actually listen to the episodes, you can actually hear my progression away from libertarianism and fall into the extremely leftist social belief set.
I blame Gary Johnson and his Republican light message as far as libertarians are concerned, because he pissed all over that thing. I mean, that was just a big, giant, fat mess. So,
well, and he did. And the crappy thing is that there's some points to Gary Johnson that I enjoyed, such as his legalization of marijuana. Yeah, and even his desire to tax it. Like, I mean, we're not going to tax this. We just want to make it free for everybody. I mean, he did want to put a governmental structure in there. But some of the other things that he was talking about healthcare-wise and what we were going to do for schools sounds exactly like Betsy DeVos. In all fairness, I mean, we're not looking
he
at
did.
anybody that much different.
No, she's bad. He was bad. I could say that she's kind of terrible. That's another topic that we're gonna slam on in the future here too for our new style. So the libertarian, the anarchism thing, I can see. I actually have seen some of your changes of that. For me, I didn't really make too many changes as far as where I am socialistically speaking. Like I still find myself sitting in the same areas as the socialist libertarian from Noam Chomsky's earlier speeches, which is kind of morphed into democratic socialism nowadays. So, I mean, I still think there's some things that I critique Bernie Sanders on, and some of the things that, he's been a little bit more wide leaning when it comes to some of the votes that he had for gun control and stuff. That was just like, you know what, dude? I think we could have done a little bit more. But in the end, really, I'm still kind of in the same area. I'm still frustrated with the establishment. So, like, my views really too haven't changed too much on there. If anything, I would say I am more willing to vote outside the Democratic Party now after watching the mess up. That could be an area where my views have changed a little bit. And then one of the things that we definitely agree on, that's just to preempt one of your next segments that you had for your view changes, aggressiveness online. I have toned mine down a ton.
Yeah, and before we get into the aggressiveness, I want to piggyback off your anarchism, viewpoint and your change to want to vote outside the demographic. Now, we saw it didn't favor us because they chose the wrong candidate for that. Trump should not be in office, in all fairness. He is a horrible leader, a horrible disappointment, and has done maybe one thing good out of everything, but I can't even tell you what that one thing is. I'm just going to give him the credit because I'm not an absolutist, right? And on the anarchy side, I've always been somewhat of an anarchist. And some of that's due to my position in society, right? I've never been super rich. I have come from a privileged family, but I've never been like this gigantic, I've never been a millionaire. My parents have never owned yachts. They've never owned 3 houses. I've never been, even in a family business that has benefited me any more than just putting food on the table, right? But the farther I go in life, the more I understand that there's a lot of people out there that have so many disadvantages. And I'll give an example, in my work life, right? I have people that work for me that, make half of what I make. And I feel bad. That's wrong, right? It's what the market's dictating right now. And yes, my skill set comes into play a little bit more. Yes, I technically have more education. But in all fairness, I've had more opportunity and I was brought through the system in a certain way. These people haven't always had the same chance. One of the individuals has done really well for us. Like, she has done extremely well, and I've been working my way towards making her wages match what she's doing. But now I'm fighting this larger uphill corporate battle because they're like, well, do you just want to make less and give her some of your money? And it's like, well, yes, kind of to a point. We're sitting here talking about I don't want to be one of the elite. And my anarchism and my desire to fight for that inside of my own company and inside of the companies I'm dealing with has changed. Before, it was always put my family first. Now I'm actually seeing the larger picture that in reality that gap that we talk about, the income gap between the low income, middle, and high, that gap is so broad, it's not even funny. And it's disgusting that we have to live our lives watching this, and that we to a point, even if it's a passive point, we are part of that culture. We are part of that normative. And what are you doing to change it? And that's one of the things, or in my views, my goal this year is to not just, recognize that, but how can I affect change in the best manner possible in that avenue?
I agree. The anarchist thing for me basically has always been something like this. It's currently what I view is going on in Russia. So listening to a really cool analysis recently about someone who lived in Russia after the Soviet Union fell. And everybody said they're going to break it down and they're finally going to instate a democratically elected government, the government of the people. And so what really happened, though, was this weird period of anarchy where it was a bunch of tribal groups trying to see which guy was going to end up on top. And there was this weird partition government, and all these KGB officers were fighting and taking over things. And things turned into an oligarchy where a few had everything and almost everyone had nothing. And it was just pure anarchy, and there was very little control, what society usually gives and functions for the small people. And so that was anarchy, just pure chaos. And it just kind of started to solidify directly into a top-down government. It's one of the things that I've never seen anarchy directly turn into a non-plutocratic or non-oligarchic society, which eventually turns into one of those plutocrats turns into the dictator, which is kind of what they have now with Putin being at the top. I like the idea of anarchism, burn this whole mother down, and then we'll build our perfect society. But I've never seen it really happen. Anytime it does, it just kind of falls. So I've always kind of stayed with this, that government regulation is really important, and adjusting and manipulating it through social sciences I cannot think of a better way to do it. It's a cumbersome way, it's slow, it's difficult, but I mean, it's always just kind of been there for me. So I'm still in that big fat red tape. I hate cumbersomeness in the government, but I'm stuck there. I cannot think of a better way to do it. So I don't know. What's your next one, man? Because I think we're going to agree on that one too.
So the next one, the next kind of views that have changed is my aggressiveness towards confronting religion. That's kind of been one of the things that I've actually taken down. And I'm not saying that it doesn't have its place. And that's not what I'm saying at all. And I don't want anybody to misconstrue that I'm still technically an anti-theist. In all fairness, I am.
If they really want to know, they should come onto your Facebook page and just start posting a bunch of really, really religious stuff. And they'll see the real
it won't just be me
out.
either. That's the problem. They'll have the whole army of people that follow my page.
Tanner's army?
No, I don't have an army. No. It's just people that they'll scroll through my page, and what'll happen is they'll see something that pisses them off, and then it'll be like this onslaught. And the way Facebook works is because all my posts are public. Once somebody posts something on there, and another person does, it just kind of cascades, right? And to the point, where that post becomes more visible. I had a post on some article from The Root, and some guy came on to tell me how wrong I was about white privilege, and then another person did, and then another person did, and then all of a sudden it started showing up in other friends' feeds, and then I had people coming on defending it, saying, no, you people are all crazy. Then it turned into this big catastrophic screaming match,
I kind of love that and hate it at the same time. I love when my friends show up to defend me. That's a great feeling. Today I had one when I posted a little bit, and I had a bunch of friends come out, and I had one conspiracy theorist, the guy who was talking about the CIA and MK Ultra and how this is a false flag to take away our guns. It's
that's crazy.
And I said, yeah, just pure nuts. Well, the fact that his screen name was Mundingo. Immediately, there's no way this guy's he's not a racist jackass. But regardless, it's just and it's cool. My friends came out and they were talking to him and digging in, and some of them were slapping at him real hard, and some of them were trying to figure out what he was really talking about. It's I didn't have to be the only person in my perspective, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so we're talking about things have changed. I'm now I'm now not confronting religion as aggressively as I'm confronting political ideas. For me, it's a no holds bar game with political ideas, especially when it comes to race and identity type politics. That's where I've refocused my energy, because I'm saying is, yeah, okay, you want to believe in Jesus. Are you going to vote for Trump in 4 years or 3 years now? If you're still going to vote for Trump, let's talk about that instead, because in the long run, unless it's Jesus telling you to vote for Trump, I would rather you vote for anybody else than that orange Cheeto monster.
I think we could change someone's political views faster than we could their religious views. I think that's kind of the reasons why I'm more political in the arena myself. One, I've never been that hard in the anti-religion because I was never really part of religion, so I'm not that best at defending it. But as far as the sciences and politics, I think I could change your mind better on that. And so I think that's kind of an area of expertise. There's a stronger area of expertise for myself. And I think kind of that's what you are, maybe, that you think it's easier change someone's ideas maybe in that area.
I feel more comfortable that it'll make a larger difference in the short term. In all fairness,
that's
and I'm finding that religion is actually moderating itself. As much of a virus as it is still adapting and still trying to survive. And I won't deny that, but I don't see it as being as large of a detriment to society as I did 4 years ago. And some of that has to do with, I'm now comfortable being out. I have a job where people know that I'm an atheist and I'm not getting fired for it. And, cool. I'm seeing a lot of people that I met when I came out originally through Facebook. A lot of these people are now, able to get on with their lives. Their lives aren't detrimented to the point where they can't deal with it. Now, that doesn't say that we're still not going to talk about it.
No.
But for example, we have a story that we're going to be that we're going to be sharing in the next month, and that's kind of part of what we're changing. And I don't want to get into that too much, but I have a friend that I've known for about 2 years now that has kind of followed me a little bit. He lives in a relationship with a mixed religion. She's a Christian and he's an atheist, and she's definitely the dominant one, and he's more passive. And so, my desire to change religion now is I'm not going to scream and tell you God doesn't exist, even though that's what I want to do. I'm not going to browbeat you with evolutionary facts and morality facts, even though that's what I want to. But I'm going to take these other stories and I'm going to say, hey, look at what your belief set is doing to this person. Look at how your beliefs are influencing this type of a reality that we live in. And for me, that's the bigger difference here, right? That's the biggest thing for me is to say, hey, hold on. You can have your religion, but how does it actually affect others? And if you can have your religion without affecting others, maybe I should probably go after something that's going to affect others worse, such as politics, than, anything else,
The whole not in my backyard type thing with religion, though. So, like, not in my backyard, NIMBY, it's just like, you can have your beliefs or whatever, as long as it doesn't come in and encroach on my, happiness, pursuit of freedom, and pursuit of happiness and the whole idea like that. Like, that's awesome. So, like, I mean, I think that's kind of where we both are, and that might be something to do with we both have kind of grown up in the last couple of years in
I would hope so.
Similar directions. Well, I had this is something that you've dealt with multiple times over now, but like we've been doing this for 2 years. My daughter turns 2 on Thursday, so like this has been a very tumultuous period for me as far as just a crash landing into parenthood and finding out. This is important stuff, and this other stuff, it's really not that important. Like what it takes to be a good person, take care of people, be a good influence, those kinds of things. You zoom in on those. You it becomes a big part of your life. So like I don't know, it's been cool to just be have this podcast and do these kinds of things, so like we can talk about this stuff and see the growth that we've had. Because I always bring it back to Zarathustra. And basically, the whole idea of the camel, the lion, and then the child. It's from Nietzsche, and it's just we're the beast of burden with the camel, and then we form into the angry lion, destroying, killing, murdering, yelling, shrieking, whatever. And then once we're tired of that, when we're worn out and we're ready to learn, we become a child and ready to learn about the world and how it works. And I really think that that I'm in that area now. I've learned so much in this last couple of years, so it's just been an awesome adventure.
Yes. So another thing that I've kind of changed my mind on, I actually have 2 more, ironically enough. But, one of the big things that I've changed my mind and had to actually accept is confronting corporations that I like. And I want to say, yes, we've talked a lot about how much we have a hard time with capitalism, but we still support some of it. In all fairness, we support Myers. I've come to have a love-hate relationship, and I don't know what to do with myself with Myers, for example, because I can get everything at Myers, I can do this, but I have a lot of friends that have been screwed over by Myers. I've heard horrible stories about hiring and paying practices and how they essentially are somewhat genderizing how they pay people and how horrible it is. Amazon is another one. We did a whole segment on this, and I'll be honest, when you posted that, the first thought in my mind is What is wrong with you? Stop ruining my illusion about Amazon. Do you not understand what that does for my life? Because, you know, in my
reality,
world,
man.
I hate shopping. And typically when I go shopping, I know what I want. The only thing I can't shop for online is clothes, for me. For other people, I can do that very easily. For me, I can't shop for clothes online because it has to fit a certain way and blah, 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 because I'm kind of fat and stuff like that. But, you know, outside of that, I can get everything else. I honestly hate going to the stores to buy Christmas presents. It took 2 years to convince my wife to use Amazon. Now that's what we use. And then we did this whole story.
Do you ship yet? You don't do ship, do you? You get your own damn groceries yourself, don't you?
Yes, I go in. I have to. That's a thing I have to do. I can't. If I don't. Okay, that's a whole different thing though, Hannah, because I do have to get my own groceries because of the fact that I like to
I enjoy.
I like to wander, and then I go, hey, you know, I could do something with that new sauce that I probably won't use for 6 months, but I think about that, and then I go, well, you know, I could get this bag of onions, and like I like the atmosphere, and you're changing the subject, damn it, but I like the atmosphere of being able to walk in and go, okay, I know I'm only going to need 2 sweet onions for $2, but I can get a bag of these sweet onions that for $4, and guess what? In the long run, that's actually going to save me 75 cents per onion, and look at the savings Chris gets. And even if I don't use the onions, I have them.
You got onion farts for a month, and you're
just so everybody in the world knows, I eat onions at almost every meal but breakfast. Like, I eat them at lunch, and I eat them at dinner. I love onions, and I love sweet onions the best. So red onions are a close second. Sweet onions are the best.
Okay. Well, this kind of brings us. Well, did you complete your corporate thought there? Because like the last point we had on this, you know, views changed because we're getting into what we got wrong still too.
Yeah. So I changed my mind on how I believe I should confront corporations, and I'm now learning to adjust my life and figure out how I can continue to do what I need to do. The capitalistic part of me that wants to save a lot of money and reduce what I have to spend and get the best quality of things. It's helped me learn what I should or shouldn't do, which kind of leads into the last point of things I've changed. I am not a vegetarian nor a vegan, but I am definitely leaning a lot closer to those avenues than I ever have in my life. And I want to preface this by saying that I'm not saying I'm going to be a vegetarian next year, because I highly doubt I will. But what what? Maybe I will. You know.
Me either. I really don't see it ever happening for me either, but I'm definitely in the same area as you. Like, we're right on the same path here.
But what I've started to read about and understand is that we have horrible lifestyle choices in terms of how we do farming and how we raise animals and how we treat animals. And even though I'm not to the point where I don't think we should kill pigs, I am at the point where I want to buy my pork and stuff like that from a more ethical, free-range farming. And that costs more. Like, that goes back to, how do I violate my Myers thing? You know, like, I can walk into Myers and buy chicken for $1.88 a pound for white boneless chicken breasts that are healthy as heck, and I can eat those all week and feel good. And if I have to buy the organic stuff, it's like $5 a pound. But you know how hard it is to find these free-range, non-organic? It's like almost insane. Like, actually, that's a good point. Somebody should be like, hey, we support GMOs. We don't believe GMOs are bad. Organic is stupid. But I'll tell you what, we believe in a free-range farming. You know, like, I would be like, I'm on board with that. That's like a middle of the road for me. That's where I land.
That's one of the reasons why I like hunting as much as I do. There is a major issue with maintaining, animal populations in Michigan. There is. I mean, there really is. There's no natural predators for deer in Michigan. So I love to take a deer. My family will take 1, 2, 3 possibly in a season, and we have them processed. We use every single tiny bit besides some of the other inner organs and things like that. But like, we get a ton of meals out of these deer, and I mean, it's that's free, that's organic. That's as organic as it comes, really. But like, it's a safer thing to do in most cases, and it's a thing that being part of the ecosystem and society. So like, that one has really been an area where I try to do that. But like, eating healthier, just organic foods and stuff like that, I have really concentrated a lot more on it. I try to concentrate more on the food ethics. like the animals and stuff like that. But really, it's just eating healthier, just eating better foods, less processed crap.
Yep, and it's kind of funny because my daughter and I have actually committed to eating one non-meat meal a week and trying new things. And it's not because I can't afford it or because I'm now going to become a vegetarian. It's because we want to bring variety. And the funny thing is my daughter and I have actually bonded, ironically enough, though the other day I had a friend who is a vegetarian. She came over and was like, hey, I got these Boca burgers. And we were grilling hot dogs. My daughter's like, no, I'm going to have a hot dog. Those taste better. And my friend was like, okay. And she's like, I'll take an extra one if you have it, and I'll eat it tomorrow for lunch. But I'm going to have my hot dog tonight. But, in all fairness, her and I are working towards that, and we're actually working through our feelings on killing animals. Because, if you think about it, a dog you feel very close to, a cat you feel very close to, and her and I have actually had these conversations. And the nice part is we're able to bond over the discussion points of, should we be vegetarian? Should we not? Is it okay? And I know there's probably a lot of vegetarians or vegans in the audience screaming at me saying, no, you need to let her, feel her feelings. And
the conversation's good, man. I mean, it's good to be talking about that, regardless of whether or not someone else agrees or disagrees. It's awesome that you and your daughter talk about that. And other people who are vegetarians or vegans, as long as they talk about it, that's just the best part there.
And that's what we do. And I've openly told her, if you want to be a vegetarian, I'll 100% support your lifestyle. Like, I will make sure at home and I won't make you just eat peanut butter and jelly every day. I'll go out of my way and I'll buy whatever you need to, have that. And I told her, as long as you don't judge me for eating, pork every once in a while, because in all fairness, like, pork is my favorite meat, and I love smoking ribs, and I'm getting hungry just talking about this right now. But
I was gonna say, if your daughter gets angry when you do a 200 degrees slow cook on a big roast for 8 hours, that sounds pretty nice. So I mean, the conversation is important. I'm glad that your daughter and you have that great connection. I mean, that's cool as hell. I hope I have that same thing with my daughter when she gets older.
Well, I want to make one comment about your daughter that's off topic. Your daughter smiles more than any other child I've ever met. Your daughter literally, so we were at her birthday party this weekend, and I walked in, and she smiled and said something I didn't understand. Probably the way you feel about my kids every time you see my daughter, who you can't hear her. And it's kind of the same thing. Like, I don't think it's a hearing thing, just so you know. I think it's just a understanding of that language and being with that person,
Evelyn doesn't say much that you can understand. She's got her own little language right now. She'll like say hi, daddy, and like hello, but most of the other stuff, it's just missing letters and everything. So I just look at my wife. What did you say? Like it is difficult still, but she does smile.
She smiles. Your daughter, if I don't want to say this because this almost sounds a little crude, right? But to me, it almost feels like your daughter could be like in a horror movie because she smiles that much. Like, you're just like, why are you, honey? What? I get that life's great, but holy crap, you really think life's great. Like, I don't think your daughter cried. She fell down, and she didn't cry. She got up and laughed. No. She got up and laughed. She tried to steal the apple cider, and I thought she actually wanted it. And in the long run, I don't think she wanted the apple cider. She just wanted the ice in the bucket. She didn't care about the apple cider. But that was the funny thing, some of that, it's kind of funny because when she smiled, she kind of endeared my children, and then my children are like, oh, look how happy this little girl is. We're so glad we came. Look at this girl. She's so happy. And then they wanted to chase her around. Well, they want to chase you around with the seal too, but, but it's just, anyway, we're talking about our daughters. We're now digressing. But in all fairness, what does that do? What does that do to teach us better? What is our goals in life? Like, if I never admitted I was wrong, wouldn't that be wrong? Like, I guess that's kind of a double entendre, right? But, okay, if I never admitted I was wrong, how would I grow? How would I change? And if we're talking about our kids and how do we introduce them to discussion points and admitting when they do make failures and acknowledging these things and trying to change the world.
And not giving them absolutes when we introduce these things.
Exactly. So we got to talk a little bit about things we got wrong.
Oh, man. Yeah, so mine is the first one I got wrong. I'm going to jump in and just toss my hat in the ring here on this one because I said it on the episode, and it's actually one of my favorite episodes, but it was one of the episodes that were my favorite for the year. but it isn't the reason it's my favorite episode. But I was wrong on the homeschooling thing. Like that one, I understand all of the science and why I'm wrong. I just can't get over my own personal feeling that there's something weird there. And then I talk with myself about it. But like we talked about it on the show that, homeschooling does not really create any kind of social handicap for the children who are homeschooled. They come out, they go to college, and most of the time they have a strong local friendship community. So they get their socializing there. So really, as much as we think of school being this like crazy intense socializing machine, the homeschooling does it pretty good too. So, if homeschooling is the right thing or the right option or something for you or for your family or something like that, like it isn't as big of a deal or a bad of a game breaker as I thought it would be. I really thought it would be something that would confirm my bias, I guess, that it's pretty rough with the kids. I mean, I had to eat that one. I had to eat crow on hard.
You did a little bit.
I ate crow. I had to do it, and we sent the video or that we sent the show to my friend who I have had multiple arguments because they homeschooled all their kids, and his wife is the one I have these arguments with. I sent it to her, and she said she would listen, and she said she would respond back, and she never did. But either way, that was one where I ate my hat. I ate my fedora. Damn it.
And that's good. I mean, I think there's always. There's always that, right? There's always that, fear that one of your deeply held beliefs has to change. And I'll admit, even with the homeschooling thing, I don't agree with you as much. I'm not as against homeschooling as you were because I grew up with some of that. Not me personally, but relatives of mine, close relatives.
Yeah. Nobody in my life had ever been homeschooled. So it was this weird, freaky alien thing and still kind of is. But I'm accepting the experts' advice as opposed to my own personal feelings.
Yes. I personally just don't think it's something that everybody should embrace because we would see a mass exodus of logic in all fairness. But
yeah, on the average, I think so. I agree there too.
Yeah. So one of the things that I have to admit I was wrong on, Trump. I did not think he would be as detrimentally harmful as he has been. So you didn't think he was going to be as much of a dumpster fire, or did you just think not as much as he has been? Maybe
you really. So I was going to say that I thought maybe you didn't think there was any way he could ever win at all, ever.
Well, that not as much. No, I'll be honest. The signs show. Okay, once he won the Republican nomination.
I was scared.
I did not have any disagreement that he could easily have won. Now, personally, again, I feel Hillary was a better candidate. I just don't think people sided with Hillary the way they should have. But again, that's just my personal opinion. And that's part of, when we talk about our favorite segments, that was one of the favorite segments I actually did with you was when we overanalyzed all of the numbers. But, in all fairness, so I didn't honestly think Trump would be as bad. I thought that, after 3 months, 4 months, we would see somebody come in and control him a little bit. That they would, slap his hand a couple times so that, if he tweeted out one
Trump.
Horrible thing week, okay, fine. That's still bad, but it's not as bad. But what we're seeing is he's... like South Park said, and I don't agree with everything South Park says, but, to a point, South Park had this whole episode where they tell you to put your phone down if you're the president. That's fair. Just put your damn phone down, dude. Go focus on the issues. Like, I would have thought that he would have left the campaigning behind, that he would have left the fact that, he's number one now behind, and he just would have tried to at least put policy into place. But instead, he's doing literally nothing to do anything for policy. Nobody's doing anything. I think Betsy DeVos was the only person that's really come out and tried to do anything outside of, the Congress. And that's where I'm wrong, I guess, because in all fairness, I thought Trump would have at least towed the Republican line and done something to try and do what he wants. Instead, he's just relying on everybody else and saying, I'm going to go golfing this weekend. And you're like, dude, what's wrong with you? Don't you have better things to do? We've only had 3 hurricanes in the last 6 months, but that's okay. Oh, and an earthquake in Mexico. I mean, it's okay. It's just, I don't know. I guess I didn't expect the fact
The
that
level of narcissism?
Yeah, the level of narcissism, the level of disengagement, the level that he has literally just done absolutely nothing but continue to divide the nation. And it almost feels like he's doing it on purpose, that maybe he has no real opinions. He just knows what's popular and can make it happen. And that's what it feels like to me. And I was wrong in that.
I think he's just absolutely and only for himself. I mean, the deals that he made with the Democrats as far as the budget and stuff, I mean, it's like he slapped his own party right in the face over that kind of stuff. Like, he really is just for himself. I don't know. It's like it's anything that can benefit him, he doesn't care who he stabs in the backs. But bringing back to the political thing on this is with the this presidential election or whatever, I listened to an interview. I did not want to listen to it. I thought it was going to be the worst thing. I expected it to be like every other interview that I've ever heard with this woman. Hillary Clinton has back on the interview circuit doing all of the book tour. And one of the first interviews she did for her book was with Rachel Martin with NPR. And they were talking about it. It was this big deal. They had this exclusive. And I was just like, man, this is just going to be more of the same. This is Hillary Clinton, the candidate, coming back out saying, eh. And I listened to it. And if Hillary Clinton campaigned like she talked in this conversation, she would have won the presidency. She put her guard down far enough. She became a person. And I didn't think she could do it. I really did not think she could do it. I thought she could not let anything out. She had to be guarded and professional and the perfect, steward of female political stewardship. And I mean, as much as she is under a microscope for every single aspect of it, I was wrong that I did not think she would ever come out. And I think it's because she said that she's done being a politician, she's done campaigning, and she wants to be involved in the political system, but she doesn't want to be the candidate anymore. That she finally let her guard down and became a person with all of her flaws and all of the, she picked on Bernie Sanders in her new book a little bit more than I would have, but I can understand her perspective and some of the other things she said. But like, it was real, man. It was that kind of sincerity that she did not have. One of the reasons why people were like, she's part of the establishment. She's the same as everybody else that's out there. And then they wanted the anti-establishment person, and she did such a good job in this interview. I've included the link in the description or in the outline here, and we'll put it in the description as well, because I mean, I was caught off guard big time by this one.
And I would agree. I did go through that, and I agree with you. I mean, as much as I honestly do have a problem with Hillary campaign tactics, with Hillary Clinton positions. I'll admit I voted for her. I wanted her to win over Trump. But we look at it. To be honest with you, afterwards, the easiest thing to do is to tell the DNC, hey, hello, everyone. Can you stop supporting these neocon Democrats, for Christ's sake?
Hello, McFly.
Knock, knock.
McFly.
Yeah. Exactly. We need to get past that and actually look at where do people really genuinely support it.
Yeah.
And can we have a more progressive candidate?
I think that, the Democrats really have to accept the populist thing right now. I don't think there's any way around it. It's sweeping through Europe. I mean, the big changes in Germany. Hell, an absolute crazy right-wing group just became the third largest political party in Germany. Like, the populism thing is big, and if the Democrats don't jump on that wagon, they're going to get left behind again in 2020.
And I would agree. So is there anything else that you were wrong about, Hannah, or can we move on to the next segment?
Just one quick thing, like the Rocco's Basilisk thing that we had, like the travel through time thing. I don't know if I basically was like off on a tangent when we were talking about that, and it stuck with me, and I've been thinking about it here and there. It's like Rocco's Basilisk. There was an aspect in there where we talked about it, and I went off and said that essentially it's going to be what they say is that an artificial intelligence would be able to punish you for not believing in or not helping it come into a fruition through simulations. And essentially there's the belief that any simulation of you that is made in the exact same atomic way of you is still you. Basically the idea that it's kind of like the determinism thing with If you line everything up as far as the atomic structure is concerned, it's still the same person. It's still you, and the probability of that, to me, like, I can understand if you get all the atoms and stack them all up right, but the length of things that have happened as well. Like, if the simulation is that good, then yeah, I could agree with it. But essentially, what they're saying is that this artificial intelligence would be so good as to be able to recreate the single step of multiplication and the probability of existence and replication and change and DNA splitting and protein folding, all the way up to everything that's happened through nature versus nurture throughout my life, so that a simulation would still be me. So, like, I really think that, like, for me to conceptualize that whole thing, it would kind of have to actually be able to go back in time to attack me, as opposed to like a simulation of me. That's just an area where I guess I'm not as advanced as the guys that are talking about a lot of this logic stuff. And so, like, I may be wrong that I still think that, but I still think it's a cooler twist than being like, yeah, we just made a simulation and we tortured it and it's still you because the atoms are the same. I just I don't know, random tangent, but it's something that I'm probably wrong with, but I'm still riding it out.
Fair enough. So let's kind of talk a little bit about our favorite segments or our favorite shows, whichever you want to call it, that we have. So for me, and this kind of goes into, we talk about when we changed. There was a segment that we did on the Angry Gay Pope / vegetarian morality episode, number 67. Link in the description. Where I interviewed a individual that's a friend of mine that is an advocate vegan, but somebody that's also not this grandstancer, right? She doesn't just grandstance and say everybody should do this. This is what she believes is right for her. And
is this the one that brought the burgers over the other day or whatever? You mentioned it for your daughter.
Yep, no, different. I have lots of vegetarians in my life.
You know more than one.
Yeah, technically speaking, your wife's pretty close to a vegetarian too. So
yeah.
I know I know quite a few vegetarians, and I always kind of have. It's kind of the circle that's kind of my social circle involves that.
Circle of life.
Well, I don't mind it. It's just something that I've never agreed with until just recently, and now I'm having second thoughts and. I'm changing my position and what I want to do. But the reason I like that segment so much is because she came over, we sat in person, we talked. It was kind of funny because she's like, I've never done this before. I've never been on a podcast. Why would you want to talk to me? And it's like, well, I want your story. I want how you got where you are. I want your advice. I want to talk with you about your reasons in a personable manner that's not me just saying, no, you're wrong, or me just saying, yes, I agree with you. Like, I wanted somebody that I felt neutral, but also had a connection that allowed me to say, hey, hold on a second. Where are we going to go with this? What do you believe? What do you want to do? And there were some amazing, conversations that came out of that, even before and after the show, which I don't have all of the audio I'm allowed to release because she only signed off on what we released for the show. And
signed off? You had her sign the paperwork?
I didn't have her sign paperwork. I just asked her. But, in all fairness, though, we talked about some of the stuff we talked before and after about, and I felt the need to not air that. I felt there was some conversations that were between the two of us that I just kept there that I brought into what I edited through the interview. And for me, again, when we talk about what does this podcast mean to me, what does it mean to everybody that's listening? My goal is to challenge you in what you believe, not just give you a biased outlet to vent at. I know that happens. I mean, we did an episode last week about kneeling, and if you couldn't tell from last week's episode where I stand, you sure as heck need to go back and listen to it. But, the goal with our episodes is not to just give you what we believe in specifically, but to actually kind of talk about, how we change and where we can go. And we're always walking into it with an open mind. And I know a lot of people say that. They really do. People say this all the time. But Hannah and I are genuinely interested in changing our mind, hence why we just talk for 30 minutes about what we changed our mind on. Because we're genuinely interested in that. And for me, that was a pivotal episode because it allowed me to go back through. And it's kind of funny because, I used to talk to her about, different things. And then all of a sudden one day she made a post that says, I'm eating lunch in the break room. I'm sitting there and I'm eating lunch. And all of a sudden, people ask me all these questions about my beliefs about vegetarianism. And I give them an answer. And next thing you know, they're challenging me on why I believe that. And she's like, I'm not here to educate you. I'm here to eat my lunch. And that's fair, right?
I want to eat my lima bean casserole.
Well, whatever it is. And some of the food she has is amazing. She gives me bites, ironically enough, every once in a while. We'll like talk about, I'll be like, oh, can I try that? That sounds like a good thing, and I don't really want to make the whole recipe. I just want to see if it tastes good, because if it does, then I'll make it, Like she's had some cauliflower things I'll never eat. I don't like cauliflower at all, I guess.
I like the basically the different flavor profiles, and that's one of the things that one of the reasons why I've been trying more organic and more, I guess, vegetarian or vegan or any of that kind of stuff is like, because I've had carnivorous food, I've had the omnivorous food, the typical American cuisine, and it's kind of lacking and whatever. So my first segment that I wanted to go into for our favorite segment is one that you put together the entire thing. You brought in the entire interview, but the opening arguments interview we had with Andrew Torres, and then we talked about Trump impeachment and moral decision making. But that was episode number 83. I mean, Andrew Torres' interview, his show Opening Arguments is awesome. I've listened to it multiple times. And it's one of the ones where I listen to it and I get stuck on it, and I like spend a whole day listening to it. But it's just a really great show where they talk about stuff, but they break it down in lay people's terms. But they use it in a smart enough way that you start to learn a little bit about logic and lawyerism. And I don't know, it's just one of those things where I'm learning something way, way outside of my means. And so I think that's the most important thing for me is like when I'm listening to a podcast or one of our own segments is like, is it challenging me enough intellectually as well as like we talked about the veganism thing, like challenging my perspectives or my education perspectives? Like, is it challenging my intelligence? Like, I want to be proven wrong, or I want to learn something. And if one of those things happen, and so like I learned so much. And Andrew came out and he basically gave us a great interview. The guy's just very, very well structured when it comes to speaking and everything. So that was an absolute ton of fun. And I'm so glad that you managed to put that one together, because that interview was totally on you for bringing him in.
Yeah. And he was a great interview, and actually we need to talk about having him back on again. Another episode that I really found, something I really enjoyed was we talked about bird migration. And the reason I liked that was because it was one of those topics where I looked at it and I said, oh, I don't care about this. Why would I care about bird migration? I don't see, how does this tie into anything like this? There's no way this can be interesting. And then after getting into all this stuff and looking at it, I go, oh my God, this is like, holy crap. This like adds a whole new level of climate change, discussions to my agenda here. And that was, that was one of the big things for me, was that episode helped me, kind of correlate climate change, evolution, and how, we're seeing adaptation change things faster than it should be. And so that was a really awesome episode for me. And it got to hit on my evolutionary, desire to talk about those type of things.
My next one brings right into the evolution thing. The debate we had at episode 75 with Aaron Furlong. The studying that I did for that, like, we both love evolution. We both love it, but we both love it at a layperson's perspective. Like we don't know very specific terminology. We don't know genealogy, and I can't read a phyla very well. The phylum, the whole Iran-Ra universal phylum, I think it's called, or whatever, to cover everything as far as all the genus and everything. That is cool, but it's just outside of my realm. But in this debate, I studied enough, into the scientific where I could understand what was going on, but I learned a ton of examples of places where micro evolution has been recorded, where macro evolution has been recorded, reasoning why evolution has occurred in opposite directions as far as whale hip bones. And what a lot of the really important things is that scientists use as far as evidence when it comes to explaining why evolution is actually taking place. And then obviously one of the more frustrating things is, the hindsight of 2020, listening to when Aaron basically says it's like, I can't imagine how that could be true. Therefore, it's absurd and crazy. Like a lot of the expenses that he had to a lot of the very specific genetic and genealogical and any of the other very specific examples that I gave, his expense. I can't imagine how that could happen. So it's ridiculous, and I will not consider it to be a valid explanation. The number of those that was there was a clear directive to show that his understanding of the very fundamental explanations as to why it was true were flawed to the point where if he understood it completely, I still don't think it would change his mind, but I think he would be less against it and a little bit more open to what a lot of the Catholic perspectives are, where the Pope is basically a semi sort of scientist as far as chemistry is concerned, and he understands the basis behind it. So he says, this is a thing. This could be something that God created or whatever. That kind of malleable perspective on science for Christianity. And this is a fundamental area where they just don't understand the basis. And this is a great explanation, or a great example, I should say, of where he just didn't get the very, very basics of what he was talking about.
Exactly. And that's one of those things where you kind of go, that's actually pretty amazing too, that you had that type of a conversation. You guys didn't kill each other, because there was some stuff said that, I would have been a little bit hesitant on his behalf.
And it's hard to lay off to not just start arguing, but I wanted to do a full on because I made a ton of mistakes. I'm not a professional debater, so I like listening to it because it teaches me a little bit better how to have those conversations. So,
yep. I have 2 more episodes that I really enjoyed. So we'll do the second favorite one, which was "Empty-Handed for God," which was a conversation I got to have with an old friend of mine from high school about an old ska band that I happened to be in, and yes, we played music from that time.
That was
period.
awesome, dude.
And
that
so
was an awesome
some of that's, a selfish thing, right? I got to reconnect with somebody. But, for me, it was we talked a little bit earlier about how I was stepping away from my aggressive Christian nature, right? That was probably a turning point, that kind of pushed me farther down that reign of things, because it said, hey, hold on a second. You had a guy that kicked you out of a band because you weren't Christian enough as he was. And yet, look, guess who's an atheist now? Him. And so, in all fairness, it kind of felt good, and it was a weird coincidence. And it's kind of funny because he's come up in conversation, weirdly enough. I don't know how. I went to my cousin's wedding, and because there's a lot of us that know each other from high school and church and stuff like that. They all show up at my cousin's stuff, and you have to see them every once in a while, once or twice a year. And this lady was talking to me, and she doesn't understand why I'm an atheist. She doesn't get it. I had to have her conversation last year at my other cousin's wedding to say, yep, I'm glad you believe. I do not. I'm not changing my mind. Nothing you could say is really worth it. Let's just talk about our kids and
that's a weird place
to
be. It's a weird place to be doing outreach for Christ.
They're really not. They're just not they're not able to understand that leap I took. It's just, for them, it's just such a crazy viewpoint. And
so your friend, they were like, so what about your friend? Is he?
Yes, so she brought it up. Yes, exactly. She brought it up about Matt, and I was like, oh yeah, I had him. I talked to him, a couple months ago. I didn't want to be like, yeah, I had him on my atheist podcast, but I talked to him a couple months ago, and she's like, yeah, he kind of had trouble with jobs for a while, and I was like, what? Yeah. She's like, well, no, I mean, he had other troubles. Like what? What other troubles did he have?
Besides people firing him because he was no longer a believer.
Well, it wasn't even that. It was just she blamed his atheism for his job loss. But if you talk to Matt, Matt actually tells you that it's because he job hops a little bit every 2 to 4 years to get more money. That's part of what he does.
It's not about what he does. That's the new economy. There is no loyalty. I mean, you go where the better job is. That's kind of how it works nowadays, right? I think. I don't know. I've had the same job since I was 14. I don't know. My other favorite was it's the homeschooling episode that I was talking about, but it's episode 68. But it was where we compared Orwell versus Huxley. And we also talked with our friend David Teachout from Humanity Values and his blog, Life Weavings. And so I recommend everyone to check that out. He's a good friend of ours. But that Orwell versus Huxley thing, basically whether or not Orwell was correct in the authoritarian, totalitarian mind control future, or if Huxley was correct and basically everybody is like drugged into subversion, whether or not that future was correct or was Orwell's authoritarian one correct. And it definitely has been seeming much more like Huxley, because we've kind of all been like, here's your Facebook page and this is your important bubble and everybody's happy. Like, it really seems like it's been more of that. But then you hear about, places like Russia and stuff employing these word tactics and, censorship things. And we're starting to see, media attacks in the United States to the point where we can start seeing, that control exerted by those in power, as far as, double think and thought police and stuff. So, like, it's scary. I don't know which one's going to win, but if either Huxley or Orwell wins, we all lose. And that was a real fun episode to talk about, because we kind of went through the literature of both of those stories.
Yep. And so the last episode for me, before we move on to the charity, is I enjoy the post-election result analysis segment. The King Trump.
The sad crying episode.
It was. And I don't want to say it was. And I had a sad intro and a sad outro. So, I listened to it today a little bit, and I was like, oh, man, I was really, holy crap. And I get that, because, back then, for me, it was, look at all my friends that are going to suffer under Trump. And for me, it's, hey, I'm glad that you won. Don't gloat over it to the point where people are going to feel uncomfortable if you wanted to work with you. And I think that did happen, no matter which way we did it. But for me, the biggest thing inside of there was the fact that you and I actually analyzed the numbers of the whole thing, right? So we analyzed all these numbers and looked at whether it was Jill Stein or Gary Johnson that actually swung the election. And that was the best part. Yeah, we did. I literally did what I do for a living with those numbers. Like, I took those numbers, I crunched them, and we went through them. And I still actually had that spreadsheet, ironically enough.
Didn't we go over a little bit in the numbers that the majority had gotten? Because this was, the majority of people. Hillary had gotten the popular majority, but she didn't win the Electoral College. So we went over that in that episode as well.
Yep, yeah, and that's why I like that, because we broke down, because the problem is if we stop and say it's Jill Stein, it's you didn't vote for Hillary, and that's the only reason, I feel that does a disservice to actually analyzing the real problem. And for me, the biggest thing is let's analyze the real problem. Let's be honest about what failed and what didn't. And we found that just because people voted for Jill Stein a little bit more, it didn't deter the election. That was that same thing.
That wasn't the big switch. And then also on top of that, there was the effect of gerrymandering. I mean, that turned out to be the big king, was the gerrymandering aspect versus the actual, the outer candidates or whatever.
And you're right. So there you go. We'll post all those links into the description for all our favorite episodes. You're welcome to check every one of those previous episodes out right on Spreaker, or you can find them on your iTunes account. So this year, we decided that we wanted to do a charity, right? And we talked about this a little bit, before tonight. And we've talked about this in previous podcasts, but this was one of the things that we wanted to do that kind of we felt embraced the theory, the structure, the love, the desire, whatever you want to call it, the part of our show that makes us Cellar Door Skeptics. And, Hannah and I have talked about this in length, about what we want to do, where we want to contribute, how we want to contribute. And a lot of the time, what we find is that we're so over-invested in our works and our families, we don't have as much time to donate to charity as we thought we do. The CFI posts different events 4 to 10 times a year. I get to maybe 1 or 2 of them. I just don't have the time that I thought I would. And so sometimes we feel that if the only way for us to make a difference is through financial stuff, that's what we have to do, even if it's a small contribution. And so the whole point of our show is that no matter what we bring in, no matter what money comes into the show, we're always going to donate money to a charity, because we feel that us doing this out of our pocket is better than us being able to donate to an organization that can do a lot more good than just us yelling into a microphone. Yes, it's entertaining sometimes. I mean, and you get to hear me slur words. You get to hear me say things that you probably would go, why did he phrase it like that? Or you'll hear Hannah correct me on the fact that I can't say scientific terms the same way. See, I can't sometimes even say terms without it, sounding crazy.
Charms, CHURMS.
But, in all fairness, that's just one of the things that when we look at it, we sit down together, we want to make sure we try and figure out how to make a difference. And if this is the only way we know how to do it, so be it.
Well, not even so much that we know how to do it. It's just really everybody talks about like in what way you can be an effective participant in politics and the local economy and whatever, as far as helping people out and doing all that stuff. In the end, really, like as much as the small business world that I work in and the corporate world that you're in right now, which is really demanding a ton of your time, our most effective areas because of our financial situations is really as far as is raising money for charitable endeavors for people who are there. They're in the thick of it and they can make a difference. And so if we find trustworthy people that we think will make a difference, our best place in that is giving them something. I mean, it's giving them financial support so that they can go out and do the things that we can't do. Because you and I, we would love to be able to go out and do, local drives for things and clean up the highways and, whatever kind of local things that you would be interested in doing. I just can't do it. I leave my house at 6:30. I get home at 7. That's my 12 hours a day almost every single day. It's like, in the end, I simply could not do it and then spend some time with my wife and my daughter. It's just no way around it. And so the best place is in being involved in this podcast and raising a few dollars to help out people with.
Exactly. So this year we chose to do West Michigan Environmental Action Council. West Michigan Environmental Action Council has been West Michigan's preeminent resource for environmental education and advocacy since 1968. Founded by a diverse group of concerned citizens and organizational stakeholders, the WMEAC is a nonprofit 501c3 org uniquely positioned to respond to emerging issues and a new threat to West Michigan's natural and human ecologies, strategically focused on building sustainable communities and protecting water sources. So, a lot of people will ask, why do we choose this group? And we talk a lot about climate change, right? And we talk a lot about how can we make an impact and what has happened in Flint. And for us, the thing in Flint was huge. It's still ongoing. Going back and looking through old episodes where we talked about this, it's kind of funny because we were surprised back then that this could got that far. And guess what? Today, it's still not fixed. It's still not fixed.
I was yelling at someone the other day, and I was like, "Hey, do you guys remember Trump saying that he was going to be the guy? He was the only candidate that could save the people of Flint." He's like, "I'm your guy." Have you heard him say anything? Has he said anything about Flint? I know.
Has he done anything? Who cares what he says? He's done nothing.
There was a $100 million grant given to Flint to update and work on its infrastructure that was given to the EPA. That's the only large sum of money that I know of that's been given there. And the estimates on that, fixing the infrastructure for that area, was over $1 trillion. Infrastructure for the state of Michigan was over $1 trillion. And for Flint, I mean, it's got to be in the billions. Like that $100 million, it's great. It's going to help some people somewhere, but it's not going to help the whole problem. It's kind of a Band-Aid, basically. And so, like, where's the fix?
Exactly. So we chose this organization a lot because of their mission. Their mission is to inform, engage, and nurture an inclusive community acting towards and to protect natural resources, mitigating climate impacts, and building a resilient West Michigan. Their vision is West Michigan is a healthy and thriving community where environmental, social, and economic systems are balanced and can be sustainable. They value stewardship, evidence-based strategies, inclusive decision making, connecting environmentally concerned citizens, powering volunteers, and honesty and integrity. And for me, that was the big one right there, right? It's that, not that they're saying we know the best way to do it. We know the only way to do it. We're the best at what we do, right? They're saying, hey, look, we've had a sustainable past. We want a sustainable future. And, when I was reading through some of their blogs, and that's, again, another reason I actually chose this group, is because if you read through their blogs and read through all these different things, you can actually see where they're engaging with the community. The mayor's buying into this community service thing. The mayor's putting up dollars, putting up time, putting up effort towards this community. And that's huge. That's a huge thing for me, is seeing this community actually being rebuilt. And we could talk about donating to the Salvation Army or to Goodwill, right? We could talk about donating to these companies, but how much good do they do? How much good are they putting back into society? This company is literally investing itself in putting the dollars back into cleaning up Michigan. And even though it's not Flint, and that probably should be touched first, this is cleaning up our side of the state. This is working to sustain and continue to sustain an environmental effort to fight climate change. And that's huge for me.
Oh, without question. One of the really cool things that they have listed on their information page is they have their annual reports, 2014, 2015, 2016. They're very transparent. But also they have their Form 990, which is one of the forms that you have to fill out for total transparency. So we always complain about religious organizations getting that 501c tax exemption, and they don't have to fill out where their money goes, how they spend it. Or the Form 990 is the important one there that basically shows you where, what, how, and when all of their money is used. And they have it listed right on there. They've got their tax ID laws and their bylaws, or the tax ID number and their bylaws listed. Is basically how they run their company. It's a very transparent organization. One of the really cool things that I thought that really caught my eye when I was reading through after Chris had sent this to me was they have a building located in East Hills neighborhood in Grand Rapids, but their building itself was recognized by the U.S. Green Building Council as its first double gold LEED certified building, which, as far as I know, there is one platinum LEED certified building in the country. There's only a few. Then double gold is considered one or two levels under that. Like, this is a really big deal. The double gold LEED certified. So anybody's interested in LEED certification, you should check that out. My university, Saginaw Valley State, when I graduated, they built a new engineering building, and that building had a LEED certification, bronze or silver. But, it's still very difficult to get these certifications. It involves all kinds of green things. And these people, the building they're in is proof of how much they are interested in green energies and sustainable energy and stuff. So I thought that was a really cool thing. But their information and their specifics is very transparent. And that's kind of important because in this day and age where internet activism and internet altruism, it's hard to trust who you're giving your money to. And so I have seen nothing to make any kind of skepticism or any kind of issues that we would run into when researching a group. These guys seem to pretty much have everything in order, and they want to move forward in the general direction as far as, like, as well as possibly Chris, but me and my bro Bernie Sanders say that climate change is the most dangerous thing facing the United States in the future. This is a great place to start, and I think it's a great place for our money to go.
And I would agree. And it's kind of funny because we're through 100 episodes now, and I don't have a long diatribe to end the show out with, right? I don't have that. It's not,
You've left enough blood on the pages of all of our other episodes.
I don't know. It's one of those things. Yes. Do I want to talk about Las Vegas? Do I want to talk about gun control? Do I want to talk about all these things? Yes, so much so you have no idea right now. But I'm trying to keep it towards where are we at? What are we going to do? That's the type of work we want to do. That's the type of reporting we want to do because we feel it's important. We feel that there's a lot of people out there that ignore those type of things. They ignore the fact that, they're set in their belief set. They ignore the fact that they have other people around them change, and they're not doing anything about it. And so I don't have this large soapbox end statement. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, go support us because we're going to make such a big difference that the world will change. But I am going to tell you that if you support local organizations, if you support local podcasts, if you support local things, all you're doing is helping to try and enhance the voices out there. And for me, that's the big thing. We talk about charity. We've given to a charity tonight. That's what we've done. We're giving that to other people, because for us it's not about the money. For us it's about the message. It's about how can we help inspire you to go out and make a difference in this world, whether it's through money, through time, through whatever you want to do. All we want you to do is go out and try and change humanity for the better, because for me, I don't want to see another gun shooting. I don't want to see another school shooting. I'm so sick of these things that I'm at the point where what else are we going to do? And so for me, it's all about what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with where you can make a difference? And how can you affect those around you to make a better decision? I got to thank our new Patreon. We have a new one. Yes, we do. And you can be part of that if you go over to patreon.com and subscribe right now for $1 an episode. But we do have a new Patreon called More Cowbell. Thank you so much for supporting us. We love you to death. Have a good night, everyone, and we'll see you next week with episode 101.
You've been listening to a presentation of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker, cellardoorskeptics.com.